Hi guys, this is Driven and D&D from Power Up Gamers, and welcome to Lagat's Tomb of Amazing Creatures Mega Stream. And this is part of some of the things I'm doing for the last 36 hours of the Kickstarter for my PDF. And hopefully we'll have some people hopping in and throughout the evening. And to just hang out, talk RPGs, ask about the Kickstarter, etc. Plus, I wanted to show off a little bit of the projects that have been going on, kind of behind the scenes. So with that being said, as you can see, I'm having a smoke and kind of enjoying my evening thing. So I'm pretty excited about the Kickstarter. We are sitting right at $400 at the moment, and our initial goal is $500. So it looks like we have a very good chance of being funded. Even if the funding does not happen, we will still be releasing the base digital PDF on Drive-Thru RPG when it is ready. Our delivery date at the moment is June 1st, although we plan on getting it to you guys much sooner. So, some of you may not have heard anything about this Kickstarter, and you might be asking, well, what is it? Lagat's Tomb of Amazing Creatures is a digital or PDF of RPG supplement I've been working on. It is basically a monster compendium of homebrewed and reskinned monsters for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So what does the base PDF include? At the moment, we are planning on including 20 to 26 unique monsters as along with some artwork. The artwork at the moment is planned to be black and white ink sketches, although if we meet our initial goal, we have planned to do a lower quality color for each monster as well as the cover page. In addition, and we currently have on each monster page, we have a lore, culture, and history section, something that I personally feel has been missing from most of the monster manuals in Dungeons and Dragons throughout the years. We also are planning on including some nice tables in the back, including one where the monsters are listed by CR rating, by terrain that they live in, by the monster template, such as Undead or Fae, an encounter role table, or an adventure hook role table, and some possible location tables. So, what monsters can be expected to be in this space PDF? Well, currently we have divided the 78 original monsters into 3 batches. As the base PDF is planned to be the planar and elemental type creatures. So you'll have a lot of your fey creatures. You'll have creatures that come from shadow realms. You have a star dragon that lives in between in the dimensions and planes, kind of in the void, or things of this nature is what we're really leaning towards having the base PDF of include. So, I think first off, I would like to share with you the sample design layout we did for the blink wasp, which is a creature that we came up with. And as you can see here, this is the page layout we've gone with, very similar to the 5th edition monster manual as far as type text, kind of the structure, and you'll see we have the black and white ink art up in the corner that is kind of popped out a little because it's on a different background than the rest. But we picked this particular page design because it's easy on the eyes. It doesn't look quite so busy or dirty compared to the other page out design that we were looking at, which looked more like an old burnt parchment. So, looking at the blink wasp here, you can see we have a brief description of what the blink wasp is the terrain and that it lives on, which in this case is the forests in the Feywilds, and it builds its hives in the sturdiest and highest of trees in these forests. It's under culture, we have a little bit of information, and such as the hives usually consist of 8 to 24 workers and a queen and larva. The workers pretty much handle all the work, and the queen reproduces. There's a bit of lure, because unlike most wasps, these wasps live off of pollen they collect, and they make nectar similar to honey. It's said to contain psychedelic properties. So the nectar is something that is highly valued among the Fae. There's a little bit of history, including a time when a large swarm of blink wasps came over into the primaterial plane. And then we have the stat block with the abilities. So this is pretty much what the typical monster page would look like with various monsters. Some may be a page and a half long, some may be a page, depending on the length of the different sections. But in general, this is the format you would expect to see. So that should give you guys a pretty good insight as to what the monster pages will look like. So let's talk a little bit about the different monsters, and I will begin with the planar elemental type creatures. Simply because that is what the base PDF is going to be so based around, so this is the most likely stuff that you will receive in the PDF, even though some of my personal favorites are in the other divisions. So we have a wide range. We have the Chronosprite, and the Chronosprite is a fake creature that, if you have ever seen the animated Disney movie Beauty and the Beast, think of Clockwork Urk, the one of the servants that looked like a grandfather clock. This is basically what this creature looks like, only it has more pronounced arms and legs, but its face is very much that of a typical grandfather clock. These Chronosprites also have some interesting abilities to manipulate time and the sense of time. Think kind of like Matrix, where in the fight scenes everything slows down. That's kind of the feel I was going for with this particular creature. The next one is the Star Dragon. And the Star Dragon, which is our cover page of the PDF, is a dragon that lives in the void between dimensions and planes. And the idea for this was I wanted something that when players used a magic portal or travel to a different dimension or plane, there's a split moment while they're teleported. And I wanted that to be something that was risky to do. And what better way to do that than put a dragon in that void or that pocket dimension. So not only do they have to worry about getting to where they're going and safely by the means, but they might also be attacked during the travel. These are very big bad dragons, and very much along the lines you would see of Bahamut and Tiamat, and some of the lore we included is that they are believed to be siblings of Bahamut and Tiamat, and have been cursed or exiled to live in the void by the deities. The next monster we have is called the Keaton and Guardians. These are typical constructs in a way. They look very much like your normal construct. the big difference is they are made from the elements. It's so, they look very much like your standards of armor, but made of fire, water, air, earth, and of course they have immunities and damages in attacks based on what kind of element they're based off of. The next one creature that we have is called a breeze broom. And this came to me originally from a cartel out in the US of Pico Spill. Pico Spill is this cowboy type character who was said to have lassoed a tornado and rode it. So I thought, what if there was a monster that was basically a tornado in storms and could be ridden like a warhorse. So that's kind of what this creature is. Creature we have is this Laton. These are hydras that are based on the different elements, and some people believe each one is its own element. Some others believe that each head has its own elemental property. They're very rare to come across us. Next, we have the Gajern, and the Gajern are a very interesting thing for me. These are your vampire assassins, and I built them basically around on the idea of an old ninja or kung fu school, or like a bunch of the B-rated kung fu movies. These kind of have these schools with the teacher, and I kind of wanted this house type thing similar to Game of Thrones. Owns this clan similar to a bunch of those movies that were basically assassins that were vampires. The next monster is the Zarkin, and the Zarkin are Nagas that are based on the different elements, very similar to the elemental constructs and the elemental hydras. The next are the Durgan, which are the shadow ogres, is the simplest way to explain them. The ogres made out of shadow. Very brutish, very hard to spot, very strong, sneaky, silent. Very much a different feel than your typical ogre, even though it possesses many of the same qualities. The next is the Shadowkin, and these Shadowkin are one of my favorite creatures to use is in my own games, because they are living shadows that can literally possess any living creature and take them over. And there's mechanics for that on the monster page. But to me, this was interesting. It came off of originally it came from just a crazy idea I had, a dream, a shadow was trying to possess someone. And then I watched Once Upon a Time, where they went in and dealt with Peter Pan's shadow, and that was, and the way they did that shadow in that show was exactly kind of the feeling I wanted for the Shadow Kid. It's developed from there. The next creature is the Colostra. The Colostra are basically Pegasus with its wings that travel throughout the different dimensions and planes. And I wanted to do this monster, even though there was Pegasus in the book, and they were kind of primaterial plane monsters with access to the celestial realms. But they didn't really cover that they could go to all the planes and dimensions. So I wanted something along those lines. The next is the Shadow Phoenix, and this is very much your typical Phoenix. Looks as pretty much exactly like you would expect, except for it's made from shadow and hellfire. Then we have the Magon. The Magon are basically these hags that know some magic, but they are made from vines, and roots. So very much a living plant that's a hag. Then we have the Haladi. The Haladi are these small serpents that can phase through things, and very much a almost ghost-like ability, but for the most part, they're just your typical serpent outside of this ability. Then you have your sprig. The sprig is Fae, a plant type creature, very similar in my mind to kind of the real world legends of I'm wanting to say brownies, where if you upset them, they'll play a trick on you. They're very much kind of your prankster nature creatures. Then you have the Ergon. The Ergon are, in essence, time hounds. Very much similar in power to creatures like the hellhounds, as far as pure strength, speed. But they have this unique ability to move throughout time, forward or backwards, 2 minutes. So that's an interesting mechanic in play. During when it uses this ability, players and other creatures can only use movement actions. So it makes for some interesting combat, especially narrative. The next creature is the Hypno. And these are fairies that very much deal with sound. Very similar to think of like a banshee cry. The black sirens call for the comic books. hooks, and they also have weapons that use sound as a prime means of attack. The next is the kickstarter, and the kickstarter is basically a water elemental that is in the shape of a boar. It's big, egg, it's brute power. So an interesting take on something that might throw your players a little bit off and not always be using the same, or it's a water elemental type thing. The next creature is the Dream Wisp. This is probably one of my top 3 favorites in the entire list of monsters. And this is basically a willow wisp that is roughly humanoid, and it feeds off the dreams and nightmares of other creatures. Now, there's some unique abilities for this. Even though it doesn't have an attack outside of consuming the dream aims and nightmares, it can regenerate from what others consume. And it has an ability called Unseen. And what Unseen does is if you're not asleep, unconscious, or in a trance, you cannot see this creature. However, if you make a perception check, you can see the hazy mist of the dreams and nightmares that it's feeding upon. So where that mist ends, chances are the dream wisp is the of course, we had the blink wasp that you've seen a little bit earlier with the sample page, and we discussed that a little. The next one is the Zomon. The Zomon is basically an armadillo made of lightning. It has some additional armor, some ability is to do with storms and kind of charging at people, because that's what armadillos do. The next one is very similar to the face serpent that we already talked about, only it's a kobold. It's called the low current. But it very much is similar. It's a kobold with the ability to pass through objects. We then have the flint heart and the mist heart. The flint heart is basically a gargoyle that's made of fire, and the mist heart is basically a gargoyle made of smoke or mist. Then we have the Desi and the Seshi. The Desi is basically an imp made out of earth or rock, and the Seshi is an imp made out of water. Then we have the Chaos Pixie. The Chaos Pixie is very much your typical trickster pixie, a very chaotic in nature. However, it does have one unique combat ability called the Hand of Fate, in which it can choose any D20 roll or made, whether by itself, an ally, or enemies, and grant either advantage or disadvantage on that roll. So these are the creatures that are most likely to be in the base PDF. Yes. Now, if we make some of our extended goals or stretch goals, as Kickstarter says, we may include some others. So I will cover some of my favorite ones out of those. And the basic idea of them. We have the crystal cat. These cats are pretty much you're living in crystal, or as far as what they're made from. They are telepathic, they can heal, and they do take bonded companions, very much similar to those who have read Mercedes Lackey, the heralds of the Alamo trilogy, where the heralds have companions who are horse-like. That's same basic idea for this. And not AMI's, what's the other one? The author of the Pern series. Most of you should know the Pern series. They have a very similar bond with the dragon. So these are a pretty cool little creature, pretty bad at Mamba Jabas for fights, combats, given the different abilities. And one big ability really useful to organizations and factions is they have the ability to communicate with any other crystal cat, no matter the location. So even if they're on different planes, dimensions, across the world from each other, so they're extremely valuable. Oh, the next monster that I would like to talk about is the Octona. And the Octona are basically the samurai octopus. If you've seen Pirates in the Caribbean 2, where they meet Davy Jones, think kind of that humanoid octopus is only in samurai armor, wields katanas. And these are also kind of the defender of the deep attitude that Aquaman had in the comics, very much kind of protectors of the sea, alien sea life. We have the Dracotor, excuse me, which is a minotaur with the upper body of a dragonborn. We have the Zing Bugbear, and the Zing Bugbear is kind of interesting. Think basically what would happen if a bugbear had the speed of the Flash. And that's kind of how these work. They're extremely fast. Yes. We have the Catacomb, which is a unicorn made of needles and thorns. So, again, kind of a living plant beast. We have the Displacement Owlbear, which is pretty much an owlbear with its a couple tentacles like a displacer beast, and the displacement ability that displacer beasts have. We have a dream lily. The dream lily is basically this human-sized orangish tiger lily that has vines and thorns on the vines, tremor sense, and if it feels the vibrations, it shoots these thorns out of its vines, and these thorns cause hallucinations, which can be quite interesting. I've used this in many of my one-shots, and players seem to really enjoy it. We have a cloud goblin, which is basically a goblin that flies, does some lightning attacks. We have a psychic ooze, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's an ooze with some psychic and telepathic abilities. We have a sky kraken, a massive kraken that flies around in the sky, often used for transportation, much like an airship. We have a trumpeter, and the trumpeter is basically, imagine if you had a centaur with the upper body was a Venus flytrap. That's pretty much what the trumpeter is. So kind of an interesting take on a centaur. We have a Goater, again a centaur with the upper body of a savage gorilla. We have the Savannah, which are hags that work together because the abilities and magic are strengthened by working together. Think very much of Richard's Coven, where you always saw 3 or 6 or 9 of them working together. Very much the same thing here. We have the Kalur, which is basically this creature that eats magic and regenerates with it. We have the Thrakeen, and these are creatures that look like a praying mantis about the size of a tarantula that can burrow into a living creature and possess them, and then they feed off their host for years, perhaps decades. We have a psionic necromancer, basically necromancer that uses things like telepathy and telekinesis to control all undead. We have something I'm personally proud of, and that is the Skinwalker. We took the Native American legends of a shape changer and basically gave them stats for D&D. The thing that makes these a little bit different from the normal shape changers in D&D is we kept the Native American legend and kind of did the spirit of it as we could, in that in order to change shapes, the skinwalkers had to wear the skins of the victims to take that form. So we kept that in we have a vampiric tree. A very much looks like an old dying oak tree, for example, or has little mouth and fangs right where the trunk goes to meet the leaves, and obviously it drinks blood. So some pretty interesting creatures is that I hope get included in the PDF. It just really is based on what we can raise. So, but that's kind of a run through of what's included in the PDF. Some of the monsters we've shown you an example of the page design. And so that's pretty much what you can expect to see. So let's take a moment and check a few of my different messages, and the Hangout. Okay. Doesn't look like anyone has joined the Hangout out yet. So I will take a few moments here. Light me up another smoke, and then I will kind of fill you guys in on where the PDF itself stands as far as being completed. So currently, all the base writing for the PDF has been done. Now, with that being said, it is spread out through 3 different documents right now, because I have my Word document that I do my writing in, 2 Google documents, and then we are also putting it in InDesign to do the page design, layout, etc. One of the issues was a mess up with the initial Google document setup. There was no line breaks or page breaks included, and there wasn't enough pages in the document. We had only planned for 1 page per monster, and it was really hard to fit everything onto 1 page, including the artwork in Google Documents. Oops. So I made a second Google document that is close to 300 pages long. And the reason for this is there's 3 pages for each monster. One for the stat app blocks and descriptions, and then you have an entire page for the artwork, and then a page for the local culture or history and and that's working much better. I also included the line breaks and the page breaks. So that will be our official Google document, but we are in the process of transferring all the stuff that's already been written and put into other documents into that one. And 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 then once that's done, we have to finish editing and proofreading it. So, and during this time, all the artwork is being done. And, and even though we have some very base concept art for all the monsters, we're going back in, getting finer detail ink sketches, is probably color or artwork. So it is a very interesting process. A lot more goes into it than I realized. A lot more time, a lot more effort. I was amazed by how much I'm learning and that I didn't know. So ideally, as those who know of the Kickstarter, we have 30 some odd hours to go to reach our goals. The initial goal, we're at $100 a so I'm pretty confident we'll make that one. I would love to see some of the extra features and goals unlocked. But what happens, happens. Ideally, with the Kickstarter ending that soon, of course, we have Christmas coming up, so there will be a small break for most of us working on the PDF. So ideally, by the end of January, all the writing will be edited, proofread several times. And ideally, by March or April, we will have all the artwork done. And then it's a simple matter of putting it into the InDesign format, some of which I've already started. So ideally, we are looking at getting this to everyone a month, maybe 2 months before our delivery date. So that will be good. I've enjoyed doing this project, but I have many ideas for other projects as well. And we might end up breaking this down into multiple PDFs based on what funding we get through the Kickstarter. So there's a lot going on, and of course playtesting, DMing, playing, things we all love to do. So I hope this mega stream aim has cleared up some of what I've kept behind the scenes, because I didn't want to go into the monsters too much until the Kickstarter was almost done. And because I really wanted a chance to get some sample monsters out, kind of share some of what I've been doing, some of the monsters you'll have seen in various play tests and one-shots, such as Drake Irwin from RPG Construct, his Maui Returns one-shot. I owe him a very big thank you because he played tested the Octona, which are the samurai octopuses for me. And I got some great feedback from him and his players. So I hope you guys all enjoyed these monsters. It was a creative process I enjoyed doing. I love using them, and I hope they add some variety to your games. So until next time, may the dice always roll in your favor, and enjoy Legat's Tome of Amazing Creatures.